Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I'm Anuja Kumar and with me is VC Pramod with the Midday News. The headlines. The nationwide COVID vaccination likely to roll out next week. COVID-19 recovery rate reaches 96.36%. Centre sets up a control room in New Delhi to control the outbreak of bird flu. Madhya Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh become the first states to complete One Nation, One Ration Card reforms. Democrat Raphael Warnock wins the crucial runoff elections for US Senate seat from Georgia. And in cricket, Rohit Sharma and Navdeep Saini figure in the 12-member Indian squad for Sydney Test. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. The government has said, based on the feedback of dry run, the government is ready to introduce COVID-19 vaccine within 10 days from date of emergency use authorization. The DCGI on Sunday had announced the approval of 2 vaccines for restricted use in the country. Briefing the media, Union Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan noted that the final decision lies with the government.
हम इस स्थिति में हैं कि जिस भी दिन हम चाहेंगे EUA के 10 दिन के भीतर हम उसको EUA का अर्थ है इमरजेंसी यूज ऑथराइजेशन, ये बोलचाल की भाषा में शब्द प्रयुक्त होता है. हमारे कानून में एक्सेलरेटेड अप्रूवल फ्रेज का इस्तेमाल किया गया है. तो जिस भी दिन हुआ उस दिन से 10 दिन के भीतर में ये रोल आउट होने की पूरी तैयारी है.
The Secretary said in any immunization program in India, manufacturers first transport vaccines to 4 primary vaccine stores across the country, from where it is transported in bulk to 37 state vaccine stores and then to districts and finally to public health centers. Mr. Bhushan said the 4 primary vaccine stores called Government Medical Store Depot are located in Karnal, Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata, and there are 37 vaccine stores in the country. They store vaccines in bulk and distribute them further. The Health Secretary said only 43.96% of the total active cases of COVID-19 are under treatment in healthcare facilities. He added that the number of active cases per million in India is 167 and deaths per million are 108. There is a continuous decline in active cases, which are now below 2.5 lakhs. India has reported only 96 new cases and 1 death per million population in the last 7 days.
हमारे पास 2.5 लाख से कम एक्टिव केसेस हैं. इनमें से केवल 44% मामले ऐसे हैं जो अस्पतालों में हैं, यानी जो मॉडरेट या सीवियर सिम्टम से ग्रसित हैं. बट 56% केसेस आर दोज विच आर वेरी माइल्ड और एसिम्टोमेटिक केसेस एंड आर इन होम आइसोलेशन. दिस इंडिकेट्स दैट द ओवरऑल बर्डन ऑन द हेल्थ केयर स्ट्रक्चर, हेल्थ डिलीवरी स्ट्रक्चर in the country has declined appreciably.
Speaking about the new strain of virus, Secretary Biotechnology Renu Swarup said the government has launched Indian SARS-CoV-2 Genomics Consortium or INSACOG within the country and 10 laboratories have been identified where genome sequencing is being done. She said there is no scientific data to support the higher infectivity of UK SARS-CoV-2.
UK SARS-CoV-2 variant identified. There is no scientific data yet to show us that. It has 17 mutations and they have renamed it, and now they say that there are about 23 mutations to it with additional 6 synonym mutations. How would the vaccines impact it? We are seeing vaccines produce antibodies against many regions. So it's unlikely that small changes would impact the effectiveness of the vaccine as it moves forward.
Speaking on the vaccine, ICMR DG Professor Balram Bhargav said, in terms of the Indian study, 1,600 participants in the age group of more than 18 years were recruited and their immunogenicity data is being generated.
ये वैक्सीन जो हमारे पास दोनों अप्रूव कर रहे हैं ड्रग कंट्रोलर ने और साइंटिफिक डेटा के बेसिस पे 8-8 घंटे बैठ के और फिर DCGI ने इसका अप्रूवल दिया है, तो ये तो बहुत ही अहम बात है भारत के लिए भी और पूरे विश्व के लिए, क्योंकि हमारे पास इसमें बहुत डोजेस की स्टॉक फाइल भी है और भारत के अलावा और लो मिडिल इनकम कंट्रीज के लिए भी एक बहुत ही होप है और इंडिया का रोल बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रहेगा। ये इमरजेंसी यूज ऑथराइजेशन ये कह रहा है कि दोनों वैक्सीन में इमरजेंसी में यूज कर सकते हैं। इसमें जो भारत बायोटेक वाला वैक्सीन है वो क्लिनिकल ट्रायल अभी चलता रहेगा और रोलिंग रिव्यूज का चलता रहेगा और ये साइंटिफिक नॉलेज की बेसिस पे किया गया है।
Member Health in Niti Aayog Dr. V.K. Paul said an optimistic scenario is emerging with the pandemic situation consistently improving in the country in terms of active cases and with declining deaths.
दो वैक्सीन का एसेंशियल होना बहुत बड़ी उपलब्धि है देश के लिए, बहुत गर्व का दिन है और जो कोरोना के खिलाफ हमारी लड़ाई है, पेंडेमिक है, उसको अल्टीमेटली रोक के खत्म करने के लिए बहुत बड़ा कदम आज सामने है।
Now we bring you a segment on FAQs to know more about the COVID-19 vaccination.
Will COVID-19 vaccine be given to everyone simultaneously?
Government has identified high-risk groups to be vaccinated on priority. The first group includes healthcare and frontline workers. The second group will be persons over 50 years and persons with comorbid conditions. Subsequently, the vaccine will be made available to all others in need.
Will the vaccine be safe as it is being introduced in a short span of time?
Vaccines will be introduced in the country only after the regulatory bodies clear it, based on its safety and efficacy.
Is it mandatory to take the vaccine?
Vaccination for COVID-19 is voluntary. However, it is advisable to receive the complete schedule of COVID-19 vaccine for protecting oneself and limiting the spread of the disease.
Is it necessary for a COVID-recovered person to take the vaccine?
It is advisable to receive a complete schedule of the vaccine irrespective of the past history of infection, as it will help in developing a strong immune response.
The country's COVID-19 recovery rate has increased to 96.36%. During the last 24 hours, a total of 21,314 COVID patients recovered. Health Ministry said the total number of recoveries has gone up to 99,97,272. The actual caseload currently comprises only 2.19% of the total positive cases. Presently, the total number of active cases in the country is around 2,27,000. During the past 24 hours, 18,088 new cases were reported, taking the total number of positive cases in the country to over 1,03,74,000. The ministry said currently India's case fatality rate is at 1.45%, which is one of the lowest globally. During the last 24 hours, 264 deaths were reported, taking the toll to 1,50,114. According to the Indian Council of Medical Research, more than 9,41,000 tests were conducted during the past 24 hours. Madhya Pradesh continues to report more recoveries than positive cases. So far, more than 2,33,000 patients have recovered from the COVID infection. Around 26,000 tests were carried out yesterday, out of which 671 new positive cases were reported. More from our Bhopal correspondent.
Madhya Pradesh registers decline in active COVID-19 cases. 839 patients recovered yesterday. The number of new cases remained below 10 in 38 districts of the state, including 4 districts with no report of any positive case. Maximum COVID positive case continues to register at Indore, followed by Bhopal. With 14 patients succumbing to the infection, the death toll rose to 3,662. Meanwhile, preparations for first phase of COVID vaccination is underway. Health Department officials informed that free vaccine will be provided across the state to the most priority group, which includes healthcare and frontline workers. Pooja Pivardhan, AIR News, Bhopal.
Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has said that all arrangements have been made for COVID vaccination in the state. Mr. Kumar said vaccine will be administered to healthcare and frontline workers and those above 50 years of age on a priority basis. Mr. Kumar added that the state government will follow centre's guidelines and conduct the vaccination effectively.
50 साल से अधिक उम्र वाले और बाकी जो पीड़ित हैं जो दूसरे उम्र के लोग, उसके लिए जितना भी जरूरत होगा और किस तरह से किस स्थान पर लोगों का वैक्सीनेशन किया जाएगा, टीकाकरण किया जाएगा, एक एक चीज के बारे में पूरी तैयारी की गई है। और हम इतना विश्वास दिलाना चाहते हैं कि अपने बिहार में भी, जो तो पूरे देश में होगा, बहुत अच्छे ढंग से ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से काम किया है, लेकिन अपने बिहार में भी हम लोगों की जो भी तैयारी है उसके हिसाब से हम लोग बहुत ही उपयोगी ढंग से और इफेक्टिव ढंग से इस काम को पूरा करें।
Meanwhile, the number of active cases of COVID-19 is continuously declining in the state. Currently, 4,177 patients are undergoing treatment at various hospitals. In all, 456 patients recovered in the last 24 hours, while 411 new cases were reported. In Karnataka, 815 new COVID cases were reported, thereby increasing the active cases to 9,637 in the state. At the same time, 1,377 positive patients were discharged after recovery. Our Bengaluru correspondent reports that 8 people lost their lives due to the viral infection.
The recovery rate remains high at over 97% in Karnataka. The positivity rate remains low at 0.66% and case fatality rate is under 1%. The Minister for Health and Medical Education, Dr. K. Sudhakar, has informed that 2,73,211 government and 3,57,313 private health professionals and workers will be administered COVID vaccine in the state initially. He also added the central government has provided all the assistance to take up vaccination once it is launched across the country. Sudhindra, AIR News, Bengaluru.
All colleges in Puducherry reopened today after the COVID lockdown period of 9 months. More from our correspondent.
Though colleges were opened on 17th December itself, classes were only for final year UG and PG students. The Director of Higher and Technical Education, Mr. Yasam Lakshminarayana Reddy, in a circular to the principal of the colleges, asked them to open the colleges for all the students by following the standard operating procedures given. All colleges should provide sanitizer and a thermal scanner, and the students be allowed after testing their temperature. In case of more than 60 students in a class, they be divided into 2 groups and a class is taken for 6 days in a week. It should be ensured that students keep social distancing and wear mask in the college campus and the classes. Chandramohan, AIR News, Puducherry.
Telangana reported 417 fresh COVID cases during the past 24 hours. With this, the total COVID cases reported in the state has gone up to 2,88,410. The state conducted over 43,000 tests yesterday. The recovery rate reported at 97.73% with 472 more people recovering yesterday. This took the number of recovered people so far in the state to 2,81,872. The daily bulletin issued by the State Medical and Health Department stated that total 1,556 deaths were reported so far, following 2 more persons succumbing to COVID and comorbidities during the past 24 hours.
In Mizoram, a total of 4,153 patients related to COVID-19 recovered from the infection so far, while the total number of active cases has now dropped down to 86. According to the State Medical Bulletin, the recovery rate of COVID-19 has improved to 98.10%. In the past 24 hours, 13 new cases were reported while 6 patients recovered from the coronavirus infection. With this, the COVID-19 tally has reached 4,247 in the state. World Health Organization has expressed disappointment over China not yet granting permission to international experts to visit Wuhan to probe the origin of COVID-19. WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the members of International Scientific Team on COVID-19 have already begun their journey, but Chinese officials have not yet given the necessary permissions. He said the mission is a priority for WHO and the global health body is eager to get the mission underway as soon as possible.
Over the past 24 hours, members of the International Scientific Team on COVID-19 virus origins began traveling from their home countries to China. This was as per arrangements jointly developed between WHO, the Chinese government, and the countries for which the team was meant to travel through on their way to Wuhan. Today, we learned that Chinese officials have not yet finalized the necessary permissions for the team's arrival in China. China. I'm very disappointed with this news given that 2 members had already begun their journeys and others were not able to travel at the last minute. But I have been in contact with senior Chinese officials and I have once again made it clear that the mission is a priority for WHO and the international team. I have been assured that China is speeding up the internal procedure for the earliest possible deployment. We're eager to get the mission underway as soon as possible.
The News Services Division brings glimpses of the year that was in our special series Year-Ender. The government has given priority to the welfare of tribal communities and taken several measures. During last year, there was considerable progress in digital mechanisms and online monitoring systems, especially for scholarship schemes and expenditure of funds for tribal welfare. Tribal medicine emerged as another priority area along with tribal research. On 22nd November last year, while laying the foundation stone of rural drinking water supply projects in Uttar Pradesh, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had said the welfare schemes are reaching the tribal regions under special projects. He added that hundreds of Eklavya model schools are operating in the country.
जनजातीय युवाओं की शिक्षा के लिए देश में सैकड़ों नए एकलव्य मॉडल आवासीय स्कूल स्वीकृत किए गए हैं। इसमें हमारे आदिवासी इलाकों के बच्चों को हॉस्टल की सुविधा उपलब्ध होगी। कोशिश ये है कि हर आदिवासी बाहुल्य ब्लॉक तक इस व्यवस्था को पहुंचाया जाए। पढ़ाई के साथ साथ कमाई की संभावनाएं भी तलाशी जा रही हैं।
Our correspondent takes a look at various steps taken by Tribal Affairs Ministry.
The stepping up of expansion of Eklavya model residential schools and empowerment of tribals through schemes like Vandhan Yojana and Adi Mahotsav remained on front during last year. Tech for Tribal initiative has been launched for capacity building and imparting entrepreneurship skill tribal forest produce gatherers. The government has also made sweeping changes in the existing list of minor forest produce covered under minimum support price as well as upward revision of MSP of 49 items of MFP in view of COVID-19 pandemic. As many as 23 additional MFP items have been included in the MSP list. The increase in MSP as well as expansion of list of covered items under MFP gave the much needed momentum for procurement of minor tribal produce this year. Besides, the Gold program has been started for digital skilling of tribal youth across India in partnership with Facebook. The program envisages to act as a catalyst to explore hidden talents of tribal youth. It intends to upskill and empower 5,000 tribal youths in the current phase to harness the full potential of digital platforms and tools to learn new ways of doing business. The Tribal Health and Nutrition Portal SWAST has been launched to provide all health and nutrition related information of tribal population at a single platform. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs and Indian Institute of Public Administration have signed an MOU for setting up of National Institute of Tribal Research in the national capital. Tribal freedom fighters museums will also be set up to give due recognition to the sacrifice and contribution of tribal people in the freedom struggle. Divakar, Air News, Delhi.
You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. The nationwide COVID vaccination is likely to roll out next week. COVID-19 recovery rate reaches 96.36%. Centre sets up a control room in New Delhi to control the outbreak of bird flu. Madhya Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh become the first states to complete One Nation, One Ration Card reforms. Democrat Raphael Warnock wins the crucial runoff elections for US Senate seat from Georgia. And in cricket, Rohit Sharma and Navdeep Saini figure in the 12-member Indian squad for the Sydney Test. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो खुद से वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back to the Midday News. Madhya Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh have become the first group of states to complete 3 out of the 4 citizen-centric reforms stipulated by the Ministry of Finance. The 2 states have completed the One Nation, One Ration Card reforms, ease of doing business reforms, and urban local body reforms. Consequent upon completion of reforms in the three sectors, the Finance Ministry has decided to provide additional financial assistance amounting to 1,004 crore rupees to these states under the newly launched scheme of special assistance to states for capital expenditure. Andhra Pradesh will get an additional amount of 344 crore rupees, while Madhya Pradesh has become entitled to receive 660 crore rupees. The centre has asked the states and union territories to take all possible steps to contain the spread of bird flu on an urgent basis. The move comes after the death of a large number of birds in Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Kerala and some other states. The centre has also warned of possibility of spread of the disease to humans and other domesticated animals and birds. In a note to Chief Secretaries, Environment Ministry has asked the states and UTs to step up surveillance and monitoring of birds for any sign of the bird flu. Centre sets up a control room in New Delhi to control the outbreak of bird flu. The ministry has also quoted a report of ICAR's Bhopal-based National Institute of High Security Animal Diseases, which said the samples had tested positive for H5N1 avian influenza, a virus which is transmitted between affected poultry and also from poultry to wild birds and vice versa. In Madhya Pradesh, the presence of the H5N8 virus was reported in dead crows in Indore, Agar, Malwa and Mandsaur districts. Bird flu alert has already been issued by the Animal Husbandry Department. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has called an emergency meeting regarding bird flu. Let's ask our correspondent in Bhopal in this regard. Pooja, has the Chief Minister or the state authorities taken any measures to contain the situation?
Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has called an emergency meeting regarding bird flu today morning. He has informed officials to implement the guideline issued by Government of India. Chief Minister has informed that districts have been made aware of the guidelines issued by the Government of India. As a major decision in today's meeting, it was decided that trading of poultry etc. will be restricted from some states of South India for a limited period. This temporary ban has been imposed as a precautionary measure only. Chief Minister instructed officials to keep a special watch on markets selling poultry and poultry products, farms, reservoirs and sites of migratory birds. State Department officials informed that the daily updates of bird flu in the state is being conveyed to the Government of India.
Thank you so much, Pooja.
The Animal Husbandry Department of Haryana government has issued an advisory regarding poultry and poultry products after suspected outbreak of bird flu in Panchkula district. The advisory said that the poultry products can be consumed after cooking at 70 degrees Celsius, the temperature commonly used to cook the food. The advisory has warned the uncooked and unbaked poultry products may cause harm. The advisory has come after the death of 4 lakh chickens in 10 days in 20 poultry farms near villages Kuta and Jaloli in Barwala area of Panchkula. A spokesman of the department said that after the death of chickens, the department has collected samples and sent to Regional Animal Diseases Diagnosed Laboratory Jalandhar for testing, and the report is yet awaited. He said the team of said laboratory has also personally visited Barwala and collected the samples, but the avian influenza is not yet confirmed. He said according to experts, it may be suspected diseases Ranikhet or infectious laryngotracheitis. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will dedicate to the nation the 306-kilometer new Rewari-New Madar section of the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor tomorrow. He will also flag off the world's first double-stack long-haul 1.5-kilometer long container train hauled by electric traction from New Ateli, New Kishangarh during the event. The new Rewari-New Madar section of the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor is situated in Haryana and Rajasthan. It consists of 9 newly built dedicated freight corridor stations, which includes 3 junction stations in New Rewari, New Ateli and New Phulera.
The Union Government has rejected media reports that Indian Railways is planning to raise passenger fares from today. In a tweet, the Press Information Bureau termed the reports as fake. The PIB clarified that there is no proposal under consideration to increase the fares. The Prime Minister's Citizen Assistance and Relief in Emergency Situation PM CARES Fund Trust is allocating 201.58 crore rupees for installation of additional 162 dedicated pressure swing adsorption medical oxygen generation plants inside public health facilities in the country. The procurement will be done by the Central Medical Supply Store, which is an autonomous body of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare.
The Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has approved the signing of a Memorandum of Cooperation between India and Japan on a basic framework for partnership for proper operation of the system pertaining to specified skilled worker. The Memorandum of Cooperation would set an institutional mechanism for partnership and cooperation between India and Japan on sending and accepting skilled Indian workers who have qualified the required skill and Japanese language test to work in 14 specified sectors in Japan. These Indian workers would be granted a new status of residence of specified skilled worker by the government of Japan. In Georgia, Democrat Raphael Warnock has defeated Republican Kelly Loeffler in one of two Georgia Senate runoffs. Mr. Warnock, senior pastor at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, will be Georgia's first black senator. The other U.S. Senate runoff between Republican Party Senator David Perdue and Democrat John Ossoff is still too early to call. The expert said if Democrats win both runoffs, the Senate will be divided evenly between 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans, leaving Vice President Harris as the tiebreaker and giving Democrats the majority. If Perdue wins re-election in the other Georgia runoff, the Senate will remain in Republican hands.
In cricket, Rohit Sharma will open the batting with Shubman Gill, and young Navdeep Saini will make his debut in the third test against Australia as India announced they're playing for the all-important encounter which begins tomorrow at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Saini has replaced Umesh Yadav in India's playing 11 as Yadav is ruled out of the test series following an injury during the second innings of the Boxing Day test in Melbourne. The visitors continue to go with the spin duo of Ravichandran Ashwin and Ravindra Jadeja, who shared a total of 8 wickets among each other at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. Now let us take a look at the weather update for today. The national capital will have thunderstorm with hail. The temperature will vary between 13 and 22 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have partly cloudy sky. The temperature will move between 20 and 30 degrees Celsius. Chennai will have generally cloudy sky with light rain or drizzle. The temperature is likely to hover between 23 and 25 degrees Celsius. Kolkata sky will have mist in the morning and mainly clear sky later. The city observed a minimum temperature of 15 degrees Celsius while the maximum temperature could reach 29 degrees. Srinagar will have generally cloudy sky with light rain. The temperature will hover between -1 and 5 degrees Celsius. Jammu city will witness generally cloudy sky with light rain. Minimum temperature was 12 degrees Celsius while the maximum will be around 20 degrees. In Leh, there will be light snow. The minimum temperature was -8 degrees Celsius while the maximum is expected to be around -1 degrees. Gilgit will have generally cloudy sky with light rain. The temperature will hover between -1 and 7 degrees Celsius. Muzaffarabad will have generally cloudy sky with light rain. The temperature will move between 3 and 10 degrees Celsius. Dehradun will have thunderstorm with rain. Temperature will hover between 12 and 19 degrees Celsius. The city will witness thunderstorm with rain. Chandigarh will have partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers. The temperature is likely to hover between 14 and 19 degrees Celsius. Parts of the national capital witnessed spells of rain and hailstorm today morning. The Indian Meteorological Department IMD had predicted thunderstorm with light to moderate rain in the capital and the neighbouring regions. In its forecast for the week, IMD has said that the city may experience dip in temperature from tomorrow with fog in the morning hours. The Met Department has predicted widespread rain for another 24 hours in Tamil Nadu. Widespread rains continue to lash many parts of the state since yesterday. More from our Chennai correspondent.
As the northeast monsoon season is yet to get over, the city and some parts of the state have been experiencing light to moderate rainfall due to an easterly wave or an elongated region of relatively low pressure. This is for the first time in 100 years that the state has witnessed rains measuring more than 10 centimeters for a day in the month of January. Chennai was almost flooded on a single day, creating traffic snarls and also prompted the release of water from the nearby reservoirs. According to the Met Department, the easterly wave wave will also bring rainfall to other coastal areas in the south of Tamil Nadu today. Joy, AIR News, Chennai.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. The nationwide COVID vaccination likely to roll out next week. COVID-19 recovery rate reaches 96.36%. Centre sets up a control room in New Delhi to control the outbreak of bird flu. Madhya Pradesh and Andhra Pradesh become the first states to complete One Nation, One Ration Card reforms. Democrat Raphael Warnock wins the crucial runoff elections for US Senate seat from Georgia. And in cricket, Rohit Sharma and Navdeep Saini figure in the 12-member Indian squad for Sydney Test. And with that, we end the Midday News.